Chard is one of the most productive plants that I've grown, at least when I grow it as larger plants over a longer growing season. This year we've included chard in the quick rotation crops, where we have smaller patches of chard plants growing in multiple beds, and there have been a few issues figuring out how to grow this way. We've been transplanting multi-sown modules of chard seedlings, or at least not thinning the seedlings that germinated, to grow more plants in the same area. With a higher density of plants, we plan to harvest the leaves a lot smaller and younger, more of a multi-purpose salad green, rather than the larger leaves and thick stems that I usually would have produced in the past. The problem is we're not eating enough chard, at least compared to how much we are growing, especially when there is so much to harvest from the really abundant patches of chard plants that we're growing in the polytunnel. We didn't harvest from the strong chard plants growing outside until they were already overgrown and had become stressed, especially during the sunny dry periods that we had. We should have regularly removed a lot of the older leaves, even if they ended up in the compost pile, to try to reduce the size of the plants. And some additional watering and liquid feeding would have helped to keep these plants in good shape. It's great that these plants will still produce in abundance, even when abandoned, and are essentially pest-free. And I see these overgrown patches of chard plants as a useful standing stock of food to eat that was there if and when we needed it. I can also see them as an abundant green manure, producing plenty of leaves and biomass for the compost and hopefully feeding the soil, but this is very different from the original intention of growing these chard plants. We currently have 2 overgrown patches of Swiss chard, the variety with white stems, which are already producing more than we need. I decided to pull out the oldest one of these batches that had a few bolting plants so that we can sow another crop. The other batch needs cleaning up a bit, and we will continue to harvest from these plants for another few weeks before they are also removed. A third batch is a mix of varieties with red and yellow stems that were sown 2 weeks apart, which seem to be popular for eating and are just reaching the stage where they're useful for harvesting. And there is a 4th batch of chard seedlings that were transplanted more than a week ago, and I expect these plants will continue to grow quickly and provide lots of food in the later part of this summer. Chard is a very reliable and productive crop, but I still have to figure out the appropriate density of plants, mix of varieties, and method of harvesting in order to better fit into this quick rotation crop strategy. To figure out how to grow a more continual supply of the size and type of chard leaf that people are more likely to eat, to make it a bit easier to feed ourselves.